It doesn't mean that we won't have currencies like the yen and the dollar and the peso and the yuan and the euro. It doesn't mean that people won't invest in real estate or in Apple stock or Google or in natural gas fields. It doesn't mean that there won't be other companies creating new stuff. It doesn't mean there won't be art. It doesn't mean there won't be digital art. It doesn't mean all these other things. What it means is you think that Bitcoin is an instrument of economic empowerment to the world.
Micheal Saylor's MicroStrategy bought 12,333 Bitcoin for $347 million in cash between April 29 and June 27, the company said on Wednesday. With the most recent purchase, MicroStrategy now holds 152,333 Bitcoin, worth over $4.6 billion at current prices. The company, which was founded by crypto billionaire Micheal Saylor, is one of the largest holders of Bitcoin. MicroStrategy also said it sold some $333.7 million of its shares as per a previously disclosed shares sale agreement. In May, the firm had booked a smaller than expected write-down for the first quarter on its Bitcoin holdings. Shares of the firm were down 1% at $321.44 during pre-market trading, mirroring Bitcoin, which was down over 1% at $30,288. Micheal Saylor, in a most recent interview, shares his concerns regarding the adoption of crypto, in this context Bitcoin. He revisits the journey thus far and how Bitcoin has gone from uncharted waters into becoming one of the most formidable digital assets in the world right now. Let us now join Micheal Saylor, listen to what he has to say, and drop comments when necessary. Also, hit the like button, subscribe, and make sure to enjoy the video.
Ignorance in the political sphere would cause some powerful politician to want to ban it, right? I mean, if you look at the ladder of Bitcoin appreciation, people start at the bottom rung, which is the Bitcoin denier. And they think Bitcoin is tulip bulbs or Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme, and that's like the Peter Schiff denial. And we're way beyond that. And then they move to the next level, which is Bitcoin skeptic. Bitcoin is a digital commodity. It works. You can send value between two parties without a trusted intermediary. It's an innovation. But it's too good to be true, and the government's going to ban it. Right. Lots of people said that about 2 years ago. I mean, Ray Dalio said that, Jamie Dimon said that, Larry Fink kind of implied that, it used to be that there were a lot of very powerful, successful, either politicians or powerful, successful money managers that were skeptics. And in the last 24 months, those skeptics have been largely silenced. When the head of the CFTC says Bitcoin's a digital commodity and we're going to support it, and when the head of the SEC says Bitcoin is a digital commodity, we're going to support it, and when the head of the Central Bank of Europe and the Central Bank of the United States say, yeah, it's a digital asset, we recognize it, we're not going to block it, we're not moving against it. When the government says, well, we need to embrace it, when you have 4 political candidates, 4. Do you know in the history of the United States, I don't think there's ever been an example where you had 4 political candidates running for president endorsing a new asset. I mean, it would be similar to, I guess, if you had the leading Republican and the leading Democratic candidate saying, we think every American deserves to own their own home, and we're going to sponsor legislation to make it cheap and easy for them to own their own home. Maybe something like that, right? But it's sort of up there. So at this point, it's kind of hard to say that skeptics are winning the day, right? The skeptics are being shouted down. They're out of the mainstream. The Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, New York Times, CNBC, a bunch of senators, a bunch of Congress persons, the head of the Senate Finance Committee or the House Finance Committee. I think they all acknowledge that Bitcoin is here to stay. In fact, Jerome Powell just yesterday, right, was asked this point blank in congressional testimony and said, yeah, I think it's not going away.
According to Micheal, all the doubters of Bitcoin have all gone to bed and they don't have a voice anymore to talk down on Bitcoin. And for any well-meaning citizen or person, Bitcoin should be their priority because Bitcoin is the only thing that can save them, their family, and their country. After all, Bitcoin is a digital property and Bitcoin is to be owned by everyone. Let us now get back into the video.
8 billion people are deprived of property rights. And they don't have a bank they can trust, and they don't have scarce, desirable property. And people in Indonesia or Africa or South America, they don't have the option to buy city blocks in New York City. They can't even buy a square foot in New York City. New York City is a decent investment idea. Lots of rich people got rich by investing in New York City, but it's not the best idea. The best idea is Cyber Manhattan for everybody. So Bitcoin in that way is ethically superior to Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, Alibaba, WeChat. Those are all great companies. And as a technocrat, you can invest in those because you say they're going to 10x, right? I did. I made a lot of money, invested in Apple, invested in Amazon. I said, well, they're obviously going to stomp everybody. 25,000 retailers fail. Amazon succeeds. Walmart and Target barely keep up, right? That's the story of retail in the past 20 years. So yeah, I'm a technocrat, but I don't pretend that Amazon, is the ethical solution to the problems of people in Indonesia or Nigeria. I don't even think Amazon pretends, right? Right. And Apple clearly is not the solution to people in China, and nor is Google. Google's banned in China. So Bitcoin is special because it's not a company, right? When we talk about an asset without an issuer, there's an economic implication. It's superior to a company that's a digital monopoly because there's no attack surface. The Chinese and the Europeans can target Google, Apple, and Facebook because they're not Chinese and they're not European. But you can't target a non-company that's everywhere and nowhere. There is no headquarters. There is no management team. There's no CEO to subpoena, right? So when a government in Central Africa decides to deprive all of their citizens of property rights and say, you're not allowed to have Bitcoin, well, there's no Bitcoin CEO to arrest, right? Or subpoena or put on an Interpol notice warrant on our red notice on. So Bitcoin is nation state resistant, and it is profoundly ethical because I can start a company in China that offers Bitcoin services to the Chinese, and I don't have to be Apple to do it. And I can start a company in Nigeria and a different one in Argentina and a different one in Russia and a different one in Ukraine and a different one in Siberia and a different one in fill in the blank. And the politics are going to lurch back and forth. But ultimately, the conclusion is life is pretty hopeless for billions and billions of people around the world without Bitcoin. And with Bitcoin, a poor Uber driver or tour guide in Central Africa has the same property rights as a billionaire on the Upper East Side of New York City with an army of lawyers whose brother is the governor. And you can't say that about anything else. And you're not going to be able to hold out, shares of Apple stock as the moral equivalent for the next 100 years.
Asset management giant Fidelity has refiled paperwork for its Wise Origin Bitcoin Trust, a spot Bitcoin ETF. The move comes roughly 2 weeks after BlackRock's BLK iShares unit submitted paperwork for the iShares Bitcoin Trust. Also a spot Bitcoin ETF, Fidelity 2021 had originally applied to launch the Wise Origin Bitcoin Trust, but that effort was rejected by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, in 2022. Since the BlackRock spot ETF filing earlier in June, several other fund companies have done similar, including Invesco, IVZ, and WisdomTree, and a report earlier this week said a Fidelity filing was imminent. Similar to the BlackRock filing, today's paperwork from Fidelity includes a surveillance sharing agreement with an unnamed U.S. spot-based Bitcoin trading platform, the purpose of which is to help ease SEC concerns about market manipulation. Fidelity also noted losses recently borne by crypto participants thanks to several insolvencies of both custodians and centralized exchanges, and said access to a vehicle such as a spot Bitcoin ETF would have protected countless investors. So far, the SEC has not decided on any of the new applications. While many seem optimistic about the application from BlackRock, which has received a green light for all of its previous 575 ETF applications except one, some remain skeptical. CoinShares Chief Product Officer Townsend Lansing said on a podcast Monday that he sees a 10% chance that BlackRock's application gets approved, arguing that what the SEC wants to see is that the majority of Bitcoin trading is facilitated on a U.S. crypto exchange. U.S. investors have been piling into Bitcoin as institutional activity accelerated, driving the recent rally of the largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization. Bitcoin's price gains and trading volume have concentrated during U.S. market hours recently and have been the main force behind Bitcoin's strength, crypto analytics firm K33 Research noted in a report. Bitcoin has surged 85% so far this year per CoinDesk data, outperforming most of the crypto market. The price action has come as a slew of financial heavyweights, including BlackRock, Fidelity, and Citadel, have become more involved with Bitcoin, spurring investor optimism. Smaller cryptocurrencies have struggled amid increasing regulatory scrutiny of whether they are unregistered securities. Trading platforms have subsequently curbed offering popular tokens to avoid risk. Bitcoin has experienced some 30% cumulative gains during U.S. market hours since reaching a low point of around $16,000 at the bottom, significantly outpacing Asian and European trading sessions. Activity in the U.S. spiked after asset management giant BlackRock filed for a spot Bitcoin exchange-traded fund on June 14. Bitcoin's latest surge has also coincided with decoupling from the performance of U.S. equities such as the S&P 500 and NASDAQ indices, its 30-day correlation turning negative last week for the first time since January 2021, K33 noted. This illustrates that U.S. traders are allocating in Bitcoin due to idiosyncratic reasons, as portfolio diversification, Vettel Lund, senior analyst at K33, wrote. It would seem that the U.S., who had been on the hem of the regulations against cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, is now becoming its biggest fan. Talk about a total turnaround. The interest generated around Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in the past few weeks is totally unmatched and has driven adoption rates faster than expected. What do you think happens next with the ETFs? Would the SEC approve? Let us know your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.